by Ingrid Fraser.
There is no party like a Newfoundland kitchen party, and we are having the biggest Newfoundland kitchen party anywhere in Canada. There is something you should know. There ain't no place quite like this place, and we get it on the go. So pile your boots up in the corner, hang your jacket from the door. There's 30 people in the kitchen, and there's always room for more.
Everybody's, oh, East Coast music. You know, it's great. Where was it? Well, it's always been there. This talent has always existed.
I think Newfoundland, the talent is just incredible. It's the richest musical area in Canada. It's just unmatched. Well, there'll be music all around you. You should see the way it feels. Come on up, we go now. Hear the tone now, to the jigs and reels. Cause somebody's got a fiddle, someone else brought a guitar, and we got Bobby on the squeeze box. Grab a chair and raise a jar.
I will hear a Newfoundland tune and say, yes, that's a Newfoundland tune. So I think that there is a spirit that surfaces, an expression of us as being Newfoundlanders, of having a certain temperament and a certain character and a certain joie de vivre.
Take English, Irish, French, Scottish cultures, drag them out in the middle of North Atlantic and leave them there to stew for 300 years, and you end up with us crowd.
We're not just talking Newfoundland music. Everybody wrote these songs in this one year, and this is what it's all about. We're talking about a continuum of 400 or 500 years. This was the history of our ancestors. This was our tragedies, our greatest fears, our greatest hopes. And all of these things were written in the words of these songs.
She's the grandest of ladies, and still not that old. She's just gray at the edges, but years do take toll. But she's just as good, boys, as she used to be. Many long years ago, you can take it from me. And her strides got that rhythm so dark and so bold, it's like primitive thunder, 7 centuries rolled. And lots of good riders, lots of good men. Well, I stood up beside her, they would stand up, they would stand up again. They would stand up again, just to see she's the grandest of ladies.
Hello, I'm Ingrid Fraser. Music has played a role in every part of life in Newfoundland, from work songs in the lumber woods and jigs at a kitchen party to songs that express the politics and pride of a people. In a land ancient, wild, and beautiful, music has been our constant companion. Tonight, the story of the struggle and survival of that music. It's a struggle infused with humor and joy and laced with salt water and sweat.
Come all ye good people, I'll sing you a song about the poor people, how they get along. They fish in the spring, finish up in the fall, and when it's all over, they've nothing at all. And it's hard, hard times. Here we go.
It began with fish. The 16th century cod fishery spawned a nation here on the eastern edge of North America. Settlers came from England's West Country and from Wexford, Waterford, Cork, Kilkenny, and Tipperary in Ireland. The French came from Saint-Malo and the Scots from Cape Breton. These transplanted Europeans brought with them their culture, their musical traditions, their songs and their stories, and a distinct society evolved. Newfoundlanders in the outports depended on each other for their survival. They also looked to each other for a bit of fun and entertainment.
To a party, everyone had to do something. Sing a song, or do a step dance, or recite a poem, or something like that. That everyone had to share as they went around the kitchen party, or the kitchen racket, they used to call them at that time. But the older ladies, I was amused by, they'd sit by somewhere and put their hand up under their chin, and they'd diddle the tunes. Now that's what the people used to dance to. And everyone would be out going right to town on it.
One sort of venue, if you like, for the singing of songs has completely disappeared, and that was the hall-up shanties. Some song that had a regular rhythm that everybody could pull at the same time. I've interviewed people who can remember waking up in the early morning and hearing crowds of men singing the same song.
Anniversary. Wow, win a free cruise.
10, 11.
Best selection of furniture.
23.
Best selection of appliances.
28, 29.
Best selection of flooring and carpet.
32.
Baby, what are you doing over there?
Seeing how many months till 2003?
Why?
Because there's no money down, no interest till 2003. My.
You gotta be talking about the Cohen sale.
Newfoundland Power is built on a tradition of service. It's a tradition we've upheld for over 100 years by finding the best people to provide personal one-on-one care, by investing in technology that makes every service experience one of ease and convenience, by upgrading our electrical system to world-class standards, and finding better ways to serve our customers by just listening to them. This is our tradition of service. This is Newfoundland Power.
The Cavalier Coupe now comes with a new 5-speed Getrag transmission,
Hey, Kyle.
upgraded wheels, and a really good CD stereo. The Cavalier Coupe 2000 value package, with so many features for just 1.9% purchase financing and $188 a month, dependability has never sounded better.
Dear Grandfather, when I grow up, I want to make Tetley tea too. I want to make our tea bag round so our taste keeps coming through. I have one problem, dear Granddad. It's those perforations, you see. There must be 2,000 in each tea bag, and I can't count past 23. So till I'm all big enough, please take care of our brew. One day you'll see I'll make you proud by making Tetley just like you.
At the turn of the century, Newfoundlanders were singing songs much the same as their ancestors had for 400 years. Ancient ballads, long gone in the old country, were still sung here. And there was a thriving tradition of local song-making. In the 1920s and 30s, Maud Carpeles from England and two Americans, Elizabeth Greenleaf and Grace Mansfield, explored Newfoundland looking for these songs. In the 50s, another American named McEdward Leach hunted songs in Labrador. And Kenneth Peacock, a Canadian, began his monumental collection project on the island. They all published, but for years these books were read almost exclusively by academics. It would take a local businessman named Gerald S. Doyle to bring song collections into homes across the province.
believe it must have dawned on him that these songs that he was used to hearing and that he heard in people's kitchens, they weren't written down anywhere. They were just, you know, he was hearing them from place to place, and I guess he had the thought of, you know, it might be an idea if I collected some of these in a booklet or a songster. And being the smart merchandiser he always was, he said, you know, I can do that, and I can put some ads in the songster for my products and kill two birds with the one stone. So that was in 1927.
There's a noble fleet of whalers a-sailing from Dundee, manned by British sailors to take them o'er the sea.
That collection so dominates how one thinks about folk song in Newfoundland. The thing that he was interested in were songs that, you know, were about Newfoundland, that were from Newfoundland, and talked about topics that were important for Newfoundland.
You need not try me, sons, for we challenge all, both great and small, from Dundee to St. John's.
Doyle's business took him around the island each summer for more than 25 years.
He knew that in certain places there were people who could sing folk songs in the way that he thought they should be sung, in a traditional way. One person in particular was the Stephen John Lewis of Fleur-de-Lis, and he dedicated the second edition, published in 1940, to Stephen John Lewis of Fleur-de-Lis, one of the most gifted singers of Newfoundland songs. And he would have him come aboard the boat, or they'd go up to his kitchen and he'd sit down and sing these songs. And that was where a lot of them came from.
I survive the Duke of Boat, and I survive the sails her, and I survive the kids of fish and fish. On your feet, come on! Hit your partner, try to boat. Hit your partner, Sally Brown, and hold the Queen and Morton, travel all around the circle.
I think those songs in the Doyle Songbook were influential in schools and kind of in middle-class homes. And then they became very popular after Confederation as representations of Newfoundland. And a lot of the songs got into very widely distributed recordings. And that's one reason why Eyes to Buy is, you know, practically a symbol of Newfoundland.
And my supplies are too many. Sleep for she to travel, sure every step that she to take was to her knees and gravel.
Just like, you know, I felt when I heard John White singing Jack Hincks on the radio that this stuff is, you know, we're not the only place doing this, or I'm not the only person who enjoys this. So just like that, I mean, when people saw that book going around, they knew that there's songs being made up somewhere else. There's people in other places that have the same sort of experiences that we do. So, I mean, in a sense, it's part of all, you know, what ties us together towards helping us develop a sense of what we're all about as Newfoundlanders.
There is one class of men in this country that seldom is mentioned in song.
Gerald S. Doyle was born in Kings Cove at the turn of the century. Another family from that same Bonavista Bay community had a strong interest in Newfoundland culture. The Devines were poets, writers, scholars, and raconteurs. But John Valentine Devine was a bit of a rogue, and that landed him in trouble with his bosses at the paper company in Grand Falls.
He used to miss a few days from work once in a while, or come in late and so forth. And the manager there and his assistant finally got fed up with it and fired him. So he was naturally disappointed, and he went home and thought about it. And a few days later, he started to write the song, The Badger Drive.
Billy Dorothy, he is the manager, and he's a good man at his trade.
And in this song, he wrote it particularly directed at the directors of the company, and praised them of what a wonderful job they're doing in running the company and so forth.
For Ronald is boss on the river, and I'll tell you he's a man that's alive.
When these men heard it, they called him up and hired him back. John Valentine Devine.
And long may the business be managed by Mr. Dorothy and Mr. Cole.
Other family members wrote poetry and songs as well. John Martin Devine is remembered for Pat Murphy's Meadow, but he's best known for the Big Six, an influential radio program named after the family retail and clothing store. The show ran from the mid-30s to 1974.
Everybody didn't have a radio. So they used to, some of their friends used to go to the person who had a radio, and I'm talking about the outports all over Newfoundland. They'd gather on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock to listen to the Big Six program, and on a Saturday morning at 9:30, and they'd come into somebody's kitchen and listen to the music. They wouldn't miss it.
There was a wild colonial boy, Jack Duggan was his name.
Big Six would be on, and somebody would sing a song. Like, I remember in particular one song was The Wild Colonial Boy. Well, my Aunt Lil knew another version of it where, you know, the Wild Colonial Boy wasn't Jack Duggan, he was Jim Doolan or something like that. So there'd be big arguments start up.
Somewhere in Ireland.
The Big Six broadcast mostly McNulty recordings. Peter, Eileen, and Ma McNulty were Irish-American.
I think that the fact that the McNulty family sang all these records was very instrumental in a lot of Newfoundlanders, young and old, who took a great interest in the Irish songs and even went out and bought an accordion or a banjo and listened to them and got the records home, learned the words and all that, and sang the songs and became very involved with music.
Dad was telling me last week that John White, who was a beloved singer locally, used to go down to the Big Six once a week, every week, to ask if any new McNulty family records had arrived. And then he would show him any new ones, and he would buy them and take them home and learn them.
Several local singers recorded McNulty tunes. The McNultys returned the compliment.
Dear Mr. Devine, I have just received your song When I Mowed Pat Murphy's Meadow in the Sunny Long Ago. I am delighted with it. It is lovely and indeed is a typical McNulty number. Thanks a million. Best wishes, Annie McNulty. And then so they did go on to actually record the song.
When I mowed Pat Murphy's meadow in the sunny long ago.
And of course we were delighted with this, and I mean because it's a beloved melody. It's so unique.
I see the blue of ocean, the distant sail afar,
as the maiden in the meadow strikes up dark Lochnagar. There was music soft and tender in winds that whispered low, as I mowed Pat Murphy's meadow in the sunny long ago.
There are hundreds of people across Newfoundland who share the same commitment, a commitment to this province. They keep it every day by providing reliable service to over 170,000 customers, including their own families, their own friends, in their own communities. From the Port-au-Port Peninsula to the southern shore, they're noticed most when they're needed most. They are part of a tradition of service. They are Newfoundland Power.
The Pontiac Sunfire Coupe now comes with 15-inch wheels, a new 5-speed Getrag transmission, and a 6-speaker CD stereo. The Pontiac Sunfire 2000 value package with a ton of extra features, $188 a month or 1.9% purchase financing. Pontiac Sunfire, built for drivers.
Have you heard about Cohen's 80th anniversary giveaway? $12,000 in prizes, including a cruise. Now you could win either your purchase free, a home office package with hutch, computer, desk, the works, or a cruise for two, including airfare. All you got to do is shop at any one of Cohen's 28 fine stores for your chance to win.
Cohen's Home Furnishings, serving the people of Newfoundland and Labrador for 80 years. Proud to be a sponsor of tonight's program.
Hi, I've got a parcel and a few letters here. Do you deliver as far as Inuvik?
Yes, we sure do.
from east to west and north to south.
43 million daily deliveries.
There's no company that covers as much ground in this country.
12 million addresses.
And delivers to as many places.
10 million square kilometers.
As Canada Post.
All right, it's on its way. Well, that was easy.
We're in business to serve. Canada Post.
Long history as former Premier Alderdice greets the Royal Commissioners arriving from England.
I think there were two major things that happened to us, two huge blows, if you want to talk about the psyche of a people. The first blow was when we gave up responsible government. That was a blow. I don't think Confederation with Canada or anything comes close to, you know, being such a serious wound as that was. And the second one was the moratorium.
In 1934, the moratorium was half a century away. Newfoundland returned to British rule that year, and a new sound came to the airwaves.
The R&B Melon was the name of a boat, a fictional boat, that traveled all over the world with this crew of very musical, very funny, very handy fellas, Newfoundlanders. And if you think of the date that they started, January 1934, this was just 1 month before the Newfoundland government essentially collapsed. There was a huge malaise, a political and cultural malaise in Newfoundland in 1934. Well, these guys came along, and suddenly, you know, they weren't saying anything political, but they were certainly saying, well, we're Newfoundlanders. We can keep up with the rest of the world in the most modern of media, radio. So they really were giving voice to people's feelings of pride at a time when they really needed it.
Oh, this is the place where the fishermen gather in oilskins and boots and cape-ends battened down. All sizes of figures with squid lines and jiggers, they congregate here on the squid jigging ground.
And what happened in 1941 was this was after the Americans had come to St. John's and started building up Pepperell. And everybody who could stand on 2 feet was able to get a job with the Americans down there. So one by one, the boys dropped out, and they went to work at Pepperell. They couldn't afford the time to rehearse. They couldn't afford the time to be on the show. Newfoundland had really changed. There was a huge amount of optimism about the country by 1941.
The Americans romanced Newfoundlanders with more than jobs and cash. Their music was slick and glamorous. Stations on the military bases pumped out jazz and country. People all over the province began tuning into country radio like WWVA, Wheeling, West Virginia. Local programs began to broadcast country music as well.
Radio had no competitor. Radio was the only electronic medium then. And if you were on radio, you were big time.
Jimmy Linegar became a star through the Great Eastern Oil Bargain Hour. Starting in 1952, you could hear the Kid Ranger throughout the week. In the spring and summer, Jimmy toured the outports. People often carried chairs from home to their school or parish halls to see Newfoundland's first Western star.
I didn't really have any complaints about not doing traditional music back then. I think back then people who played the button accordion and everything must have thought of themselves as second-class citizens. They looked up to anybody. They looked up to anybody who came from St. John's. We were just the same as we treat somebody who comes from the States.
One for the money, two for the show. Let's get ready now, go get it going, but don't you double up with
Elvis Presley had just taken off. Not from Cape Canaveral, but from wherever he was. He just took off just like one of those rockets. Bang. Elvis was everywhere. And when I spoke to Mr. McDonald at the Great Eastern Oil and Import Company, he decided that people were looking for other kinds of music now, and that perhaps it was time to play records on the Bargain Hour program. All the kids were asking for Elvis music, for rock and roll music, and I wasn't playing that, so I was sort of allowed to fade off into the sunset. Everything changed.
I think we felt swept along with the rest of the world for the first time. we actually felt that we were part of something much bigger than just our little tiny, you know, isolated little island.
Crazy stuff, she looks so tough. I'm on the way home.
Young Newfoundlanders were more than observers. The Ravens, the Ducats, the Dumonts, the Bel Airs, and other bands performed for dances around the province. You couldn't find an accordion anywhere when these guys rocked the stage.
I personally was not much interested in the music of my parents. That's a natural thing. It's like, you know, every generation reviles or rejects the music of their parents. I grew up basically, you know, a rock and roll fan, rock and roll, rhythm and blues. That was what interested me, not the Squid Jig and Ground or the Gerald S. Doyle songbook or any of that stuff. That was Mom and Dad's old stuff. I certainly didn't want to play it, and I wasn't interested in listening to it.
Traditional music was still around, but it was mostly relegated to the kitchen, where it was thought to belong. Radio stations were programming rock and roll and country. Then, in 1955, an Icelandic Canadian arrived from Manitoba. Omar Blondell, also known as Sagebrush Sam, landed a job at VOCM as soon as he got to St. John's.
Went in there and told the station manager that he was, you know, a singer and so on. And the station manager stepped out of the office for a moment and came back with this book, which was the Doyle collection, the third edition, which had just come out. Showed it to him and said, can you sing any of these? And he looked there and he'd never seen any of them. And but he could read music and he read through them and he was really enchanted, you know, taken with this stuff.
And look, his book got a fine for Cutty, aha, me boys. Look, his book got a fine for Cutty, and every seam is chinked with putty, aha. Fala, me riddle I say.
He was the first person to do Newfoundland songs on the radio with a guitar accompaniment. And he eventually, ultimately recorded, I think, there were 75 songs in that third edition of Doyle, the 55 edition. He recorded 50 of those songs.
As we walked on the sands at the close of the day, I thought of me wife who was back in Torbay. I knew that she'd kill me if only she knew I was courting a lassie in Harbour Lacoo.
The 50s was a time when, in many ways, there was a lot of pressure to move away from the past. There was a lot of mainland culture coming in, and that was what was popular. And here was somebody who was coming from outside and embracing local culture and giving it a lot of prominence.
You may talk of Clare and Olensball or anything you choose, but
one of Omar's 45s featured an accordion player from Conception Harbor. Wilf Doyle's sound caught the attention of the record company owner.
He couldn't describe the sound. He said there's a no music. He said, George Taylor said there's, he was Scotch, and he knows Scotch music, he knows Irish music, and he knew the difference in the music. But he said, there's a no music. He said, that's a different, it's not Irish, it's not Scotch. He said, what is it? I said, it's Newfoundland music. First record I cut was the Jigs and Reels of Newfoundland. That was recorded in '56. That went on for years as an LP. They're still in the stores, still being sold.
Wilf Doyle was one of the first Newfoundlanders to make a commercial recording. He traveled the province with his band through the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, playing the old-time music. And he constantly promoted Newfoundland music on the radio.
So I said, if I keep my name on the radio long enough, when anyone will think of music, they'll think of Wilf Doyle. So it worked.
I could buy the filter boat, and I could buy the sails, but I could buy the catch the fish and take some home alive.
It's All Around the Circle with Carol Brothers, Evan Purchase, Ray Walsh.
Doug Late was one of the hosts, and Doug was telling me one time that he was into a store up on Gulf Avenue somewhere, buying something, and the girl behind the counter looked at him and said, "You be John White?" And he said, "I beg your pardon." She said, "You be John White?" And finally, what she was saying was, "You be's on John White." Because the show, in many places, the show was John White.
I'm a young married man and I'm tired of me life. 10 years I've been wed to a pale, sickly wife. She has nothing to do, only sit down and cry, praying to God she would die.
There were a number of people involved in a radio show at CBC called Saturday Night Jamboree. We simply were told that CBC was coming here. They would be looking for a group to do a show featuring Newfoundland Irish traditional type music. And we were given the opportunity to do that in October of '64.
This is the CBC Television Network.
And to get us in a happy mood, Ray Walsh with his button accordion and a medley of Newfoundland favorites.
We had to give our people a sense of our worth. We are worth something. We do have our own culture, our own talent, our own accents. And we needed something like that desperately to combat this flood of Canadian material and Canadian talent that was coming into us at that time.
The local programs gave Newfoundlanders a chance to see for themselves the first time a lot of the artists that they'd heard about for years on radio, but couldn't put a face to. And it also brought a lot of new talent out into the open, which never had a chance to get exposure before.
But it was really important when people in the smaller communities saw the traditional singers on television, and the traditional fiddle players and the traditional accordion players, and because all of a sudden that put them up on an equal footing with Elvis Presley or whoever else was competing for time. And I think All Around the Circle had a tremendous influence there, especially because of John White.
I bought her a bottle and just for to try. The way that she drank it, I thought she would die. I bought her another, but it finished the same. And then she took coddle over Island of Grain.
So many of the songs that John sang were either traditional songs of Johnny Burke or songs that had been out of the Gerald S. Doyle songbook, or they were McNulty songs. And John kept that alive.
All away in Australia, soon we'll fade behind. Then I'll be ready to welcome the last, the girl I left behind.
Circle made Skinny White a star, but it was his ability to dissolve the barrier between himself and television viewers that made him so popular. That and his love for Irish and Newfoundland songs.
He was one of the guys who were on TV when we were small children. My parents were fans. He was a professional. He was a TV personality. He was one of Newfoundland's first genuine celebrities.
I ponder on those days gone by as I sat beside the mill.
John sang all the time, whether he was paid or not. He sang on the concert stage, for political rallies, and for small children at family gatherings. Nothing could stop John singing.
His funeral was rather unique because he sang at his own funeral. He had arranged to have 2 of his songs played at his own funeral. So he sang for the entrance to the church, and he sang for the dismissal at the end.
Oh, how I long for those bright days to come again once more. But come again, they never will, for now I'm 64. For now I'm 64.
Pontiac, Montana, with exclusive Montana Vision, built-in monitor and video cassette player. Built for drivers and their families.
80th anniversary. Wow, win a free cruise.
10, 11.
Best selection of furniture.
23.
Best selection of appliances.
28. 29.
Best selection of flooring and carpet.
32.
Baby, what are you doing over there?
Seeing how many months till 2003?
Why?
Because there's no money down, no interest till 2003. My.
You gotta be talking about the Cohen sale.
Newfoundland Power is built on a tradition of service. It's a tradition we've upheld for over 100 years by finding the best people to provide personal one-on-one care, by investing in technology that makes every service experience one of ease and convenience, by upgrading our electrical system to world-class standards, and finding better ways to serve our customers by just listening to them. This is our tradition of service. This is Newfoundland Power.
Perhaps you've outgrown your starter home and would like to get into something larger. Or perhaps your present dwelling is, well, a little on the old side and you want a newer home. Or perhaps you've changed jobs and have to relocate. Whatever your real estate needs, get Canada's top producers working for you, the cream of the crop. They're at RE/MAX, Canada's leading real estate organization.
In the 1950s and 60s, Newfoundlanders began packing up and heading here to Toronto, looking for a better life. Harry Hibbs was one of them. Little did he know that chance would make him a celebrity with his little red button accordion and his salt and pepper hat.
The sun was shining the night that we parted. I held you and kissed you and called you my own. In words sweet and tender, you said that you'd love me and that you'd return when roses bloom.
I recall being in the end of Toronto where the Caribou Club was going on, and I drove down to the corner of College in Bathurst and heard the accordion music and went upstairs, and there was a place called the Caribou Club with Newfoundlanders and Newfoundland food and Newfoundland music, and it was like going back, as someone said, to the Rock.
The atmosphere was great because it was mostly at the time people that had just come from the island, people that were laid off either in the mines, a lot of Bell Islanders, and a lot of other Newfoundlanders looking for work in Toronto because at the time things were booming here. But they wanted a part of home and it reminded them of home.
The grabbing thing about it was Harry Hibbs, his music and his persona. He had a certain quality both in his demeanor and certainly in his music and his vocals that made you want to listen to him right away. He had a plaintive sound. I guess we call it a folk song. It was sort of a combination of the call from the minaret and some ancient Irish Celtic air.
I wish in bed. I wish I were a child again.
Harry had a voice that went back before his time, really. He sang from the heart. And when he sang a song, it would get to you.
On an eye tree.
Country folk type, Newfoundland, Irish, I don't know. But it worked.
And smiling on, it's Daddy's knee.
Some sing with a guitar, some sing with an accordion, some sing with piano. He sang with the accordion, and it was new to the music business at that time.
Green grass grown over me.
This shy Bell Islander's career was launched. After just 6 months at the Caribou Club, he recorded a gold record. His popular television show aired in Ontario for 7 years.
Our mother said.
And when Harry Hibbs toured, he performed for sellout crowds all over the country.
I mean, when we first hit Newfoundland with that music, we were totally astonished by it. Not far from Port aux Basques, there's a little town there. Chicknick Lodge, I think it was called. And we did this dance there. And we were on the stage, and the people are dancing stone. And where you could see the floor had to be going like this back and forth because the curtains were going like this on the wall. And we thought it was the weirdest thing. But that's everywhere we went, we had the same kind of response, and it was just wonderful.
A lot of Newfoundlanders, whether they liked what Harry Hibbs was playing or whether they didn't, they all flocked to where he was playing because the music brought Newfoundland to us. Newfoundland now it's gone past the boundaries of the island, you know. There's lots of fish and brews being consumed right here in the city of Toronto, and I think when people, you know, have their Newfie music on and have their Newfie meals, in a way they're kind of like reliving Newfoundland again.
Toronto isn't the only destination for Newfoundlanders. In fact, there are so many expatriates in Brampton today that major supermarkets stock purity products. But there's a hunger for more than just hardtack and jams. And that's why the excitement is so high at the Rosetown Inn when Newfoundland musicians are on stage.
Come gather all around me and I'll sing to you a tale about the boys at Carmenville who all walked on the tail. Happened on a November night when all hands were asleep. We crept up over Joe Chosen when we stole our marriage. Now if you pay attention, I know one thing gonna happen. We never went to steal the sheep, we went to steal the cat. The old cow, she got angry because we woke her from her sleep. We couldn't take any chances, so we had to steal the sheep.
I don't even get tired of singing it because I know the people are enjoying it, you know. But even now, I'm getting a different crowd now. Like when I go play a club now, I'm getting their kids, you know, and they'll come and say, if they get a tape from me or something, will you sign that for my mother and father? And I know it's for them, but they won't say it, you know. So maybe I'll last another generation after this one, you never know. You know?
Raise your glass and drink with me to that island in the sea, where friendship means a word they understand. You will never be alone when you're in a Newfie zone. There's a price tag on the door in Newfoundland.
Roy Payne is one of many Newfoundland musicians who built a career in Toronto. He mixes the country twang with down-home themes. Some dismiss this as simple, sentimental music, but it reflects the longing and frustration of expatriates everywhere.
Now I know that we don't talk like you mainlanders. Hey, I know that we're the victims of your jokes. And I know that you all think we're goofy Newfies. And that we all belong in Dory boats.
So there's a lot of young writers out there, and they're writing the same old thing that's held us all together ever since we come up here. We want to go home, you know. Mama's home, you know, mama songs. Songs about the state of the fisheries back home. It's their heritage what they're writing about.
When the little boats go out to sea from the shores of Newfoundland.
The further you're from home, the more precious home is, and memories and like.
And the fury of the sea.
I go home every night in my mind. That's one of the good points about not being too sane. You can go home anytime you close your eyes. When I write a song, I go home.
Yes, those little boats of Newfoundland, Lord, make the world of me. Thank you.
Have you heard about Cohen's 80th anniversary giveaway? $12,000 in prizes, including a cruise. Now you could win either your purchase free, a home office package with hutch, computer, desk, the works, or a cruise for two, including airfare. All you got to do is shop at any one of Cohen's 28 fine stores for your chance to win.
Cohen's Home Furnishings, serving the people of Newfoundland and Labrador for 80 years. Proud to be a sponsor of tonight's program.
There are hundreds of people across Newfoundland who share the same commitment, a commitment to this province. They keep it every day by providing reliable service to over 170,000 customers, including their own families, their own friends, in their own communities. From the Port-au-Port Peninsula to the southern shore, they're noticed most when they're needed most. They are part of a tradition of service. They are Newfoundland Power.
Right now, the Cavalier sedan comes with air conditioning, 4-speed automatic with traction control, and power locks, with remote keyless entry. The Chevrolet Cavalier 2000 Value Package. More features than ever. $218 a month or 1.9% purchase financing.
Hi, I'm Ingrid Fraser, just one of the people who bring you news, information, and entertainment on CBC Radio and Television. In this 50th year of Confederation, we're celebrating the role of CBC in the history and culture of this region. Come to our open house Sunday, October 3rd at CBC Radio and Television stations in Corner Brook, Grand Falls, Windsor, Gander, Goose Bay, and St. John's. Tour the studios, meet the staff. There'll be entertainment and special guests, too. Sunday, October 3rd at 2 p.m.
Tonight's special presentation brought to you in part by Cohen's Home Furnishings, your local GM dealer, and Newfoundland Power.
In my memory, I will always see the town that I have loved so well.
We come October '68, and we were going across the Gander. I thought I was in Siberia. Because all I could see was rocks and trees and nothing. I mean, it was wild experience. And then everybody was talking, and I said, you know, the taxi driver, I said, what part of Ireland are you from? Oh, he said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm from up the southern shore. I said, no, you know, it kicked me off. But the accents were so similar to ours. It was kind of, we endeared ourselves to one another.
There was music there in the dairy air, like a language that we all could understand.
In the late 60s, early 70s, the traveling Irish bands started to come through. The Irish Rovers, Sons of Erin, Ryan's Fancy. With their arrival here in Newfoundland and their popularity in the pubs and in the clubs, you know, the Strand Lounge was, you know, was the place, you know, in the early 70s. And the traveling Irish groups were hugely successful and popular. And all of a sudden, the music that was always here was being popularized by the traveling groups.
On St. Patrick's Day, the 17th, from New York we set sail.
I heard about Newfoundland when I got to Toronto. I didn't know anything about Newfoundland and Ireland. But the actual mention of the place I heard in a song, and I really liked the story of the song, and I started to learn it.
We pray that God might guide us and keep us by his hand, and send kind waves and pleasant gales bound down for Newfoundland.
We were playing around the scene in Toronto and Ontario, travelling around. We used to go to Thunder Bay and Sudbury and places like that. But when I got to the Strand Lounge and we started singing, within 3 or 4 days of us playing there, we were playing Monday to Saturday, and by Wednesday night, I mean, the place was full, and people were singing along to most of the songs that they were singing, and this really impressed me that the music is so popular in this part of the world.
Dog that bit him, give him the hair of the dog that bit him, give him the hair of the dog that bit him early in the morning. Way hey, up she rises, away hey, up she rises, way hey, up she rises early in the morning.
We play in Gander, we play in Cardenville, we play in some of the more out-of-the-way places, you know, and this led us to learn a lot about Newfoundland and about the different places, you know, and the songs made sense to us, you know. You'd be talking about Fogo, Twillingate, Morton's Harbour, and wow, here we are in Fogo.
Players, singers, and storytellers from all over the province appeared on the Ryan's Fancy Show. They traveled across Labrador for Songs of the Hunt. They boarded the Norma and Gladys for Songs of the Sea. Ryan's Fancy brought music from the kitchens of Newfoundland to the living rooms of the nation.
Oh, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the cell we will unlock. From that to Siglin Hill, for to Root and toss to Bog. And on their way to Siglin Hill, I met with a comely fair, and I knew she was enticing by the curling of her hair.
The purest traditional music, the a cappella singing, you know, only the die-hard purists can really stand a few verses of a 200-verse song. That's why the marriage of Ryan's Fancy and the traditional singers was a good one, because Ryan's Fancy, I suppose, had the finesse, the slickness that made it appealing to a national audience. And in there, in the heart of it, though, was the traditional music, the pure traditional music, with the people that had learned the music from their fathers or their grandfathers. One of the first shows that we did on location with Ryan's Fancy was in Southeast Bight, Placentia Bay. I guess it would be in 1975. And to get to Southeast Bight, we had to travel by boat. And the skipper of one of the boats was a gentleman named Mac Masters. As the night progressed, Mac Masters got up and sang a song that I recall, the title being Lovely Nancy.
Well, now, Sir Jack and I adventured to pull that string from Nancy's window. Oh, Jack went there and pulled the string. She come down, she let him in. Fall da da little arrow, right fall the arrow dee.
A number of years later, we had the opportunity of filming in Arnold's Cove in his kitchen, and he performed Lovely Nancy again.
Jack spent that night with a lovely Nancy, and he tickled her just to her fancy. He stayed with her all that long night till it broke in the broad daylight. Fall down little arrow, right for the arrow knee.
I remember really liking the song and wanting to record it, but obviously to make it work on a record, rather than doing it just as an unaccompanied song the way he did, we kept the style of it, we kept the tempo and all the way he sang it, but added instruments.
Now when the squire came to remember about that string from Nancy's window, the squire went there to pull the string, but by Jack, sure he had it pulled in. Pull it down in there, all right, pull it there all day.
I recently was listening to the Punters album. By golly, there it is. The Punters again have another version of that same old song. I think that they trace it back at least to Ryan's Fancy, if not to Mac Masters.
Well, Jack got married to a lovely Nancy, and he does the rapid tilt of fancy. I wish them joy throughout their life, Jack and his beloved wife. All little darrow, right for the darrow. Break it down!
I think the day will come when they'll be glad to have those old Newfoundland songs and whatnot about saying one thing and another. And I do hope, they'll be there for them to get.
Ball it all, little darrow, right for the dither-o. Ball it all, little darrow, right for the dither-o.
I'd be very happy when I was going if I thought that someone had my songs to use them and to sing them when I'm dead and gone.